Okay, we good?
Yep, you go ahead.
All right. Good evening. This is the December 13th, 2021 Permanent Town Building Committee meeting. Just want to make mention at the beginning here that this meeting is being recorded, so all comments, either spoken or written in the chat, will become public record. So we do have a very full agenda. Mike, I was going to share my screen again. Hold on.
Okay, you should be able to do that.
Yeah. Hold on. So let's get going. First of all, has Nancy been added as a panelist?
I promoted her. I don't know if she's there yet. Yes.
Okay. All right, great.
I'm here. Thank you.
Hey,
She's
Nancy.
She's
Okay.
barking at you.
Okay, we have a full agenda tonight, so we got a lot of items to get to. So with our revised agenda, first item is open forum. Before I open it up to everybody, I just wanted to mention, I received a nice note recently from Roberta's husband thanking us for the floral arrangement we provided for her service, and he also provided us copies for each of the committee members, copies of her funeral card. So I will get those out to everybody, but just wanted to pass along that we received a nice note from him and his family, and hope they're doing well. Does anybody else have anything for open forum? Seeing and hearing none.
Someone has their hand up in the attendees there.
Hold on, I'm gonna have to make sure.
Let me make you a co-host so that you can see these things.
Was that you, Jody? No.
No, I'm sorry. When he said that, it made me push that button and
Paul Morse would like to speak. Shall I allow him to talk?
Okay. Well, nobody from the committee has anything for open forum? Okay, all right. Okay, Paul Morse.
Okay, hang on.
Why can't I see everybody?
Paul, you should.
Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, cool. Good evening. So I'm a resident in town, and I was very interested in talking about or seeing what the progress is on 51 Main Street. If you would prefer me to hold off my comments until that agenda item comes up, I'm happy to do that. Or I
Yes,
can.
no, could you? Yes, Paul. Yeah, would you mind doing that?
I don't have a problem. I'll be here.
Okay, all right. I did get a copy of the email from, I believe it was your wife that forwarded that. So yeah, I understand you are interested in the project. We're gonna have an extensive discussion on that. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. I'll be patient.
Okay, thank you. Mike, how do I see everybody?
Okay, if you have the participants list up,
Yeah,
you should have a tab at the top that says panelists and one that says attendees.
yeah.
If you
Oh,
click on
okay.
attendees, now you can see them. But either way, it'll show you people with their hand up. So you can see right now there's one hand still up in the attendees because Paul still has his hand up.
Okay, all right, I got that now. Okay,
Now he doesn't.
great. All right, great. Okay, all right, let's move on. Next item, and we've moved this up because we seem to be putting it off every meeting, but I believe we have a full committee tonight, so we need to vote to reorganize. So any and all positions are up for nomination. So does anybody want to have it? Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I skipped over minutes. We don't have any minutes for review tonight, so we'll skip right over the minutes and get right into committee reorganization. So does anybody have any desire or requests for a committee appointment? I know Jean has expressed interest in the treasurer position. Does anybody else have any other requests or nominations?
My hand's up, Tom,
I see you, Nance.
when you're ready.
Go ahead, Nance.
I would
Yes,
like,
we will support you as chair.
Thank you so much. But I have to decline it, and I'd like to make the nomination to ask you to be chair again. You've done an amazing job guiding us through some horrendous waters at time, and I think especially where we're at now, it would be, I think, foolish for us to do anything else, but have you be chair again.
Did I tell you I have my house up for sale?
You did, but I rented you the back apartment, so we're good.
I would have seconded the nomination and the rationale.
Thank you.
Third,
Thank you.
fourth,
All in favor?
Okay,
Aye.
so
aye. Thanks,
Opposed?
Tom.
abstain.
It's all right. We
Okay.
did it without you, Tom.
Okay, so that's the chair position. Do we have a nomination for the vice chair?
I would like to make a nomination for Scott to be the vice chair. I think in your absence, he could lead us through the meetings and the channels properly.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second for Scott as vice chair?
Second, absolutely.
Have a second. So we have any other further discussion? Any other nominations for the vice chair position? It's a very, very demanding position. No.
I can't get sick.
Okay. All right. So we, all those in favor as Scott as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And, okay. All right, next we have the treasurer position, and Gina, you still interested in that position?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a, do we have a recommendation for Jean, or a nomination, I should say? Motion, I should say, for Jean as treasurer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, we have a second, great. Any further discussion? Any other nominations for the treasurer position? No. I'm just going by hands, if you put your hands up, so otherwise people speak up, so, okay. All those in favor of Jean as treasurer, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Abstained. Okay, and then the last would be the clerk position, currently held by Nancy. Do we have a nomination for anyone for clerk's position?
Anyone can have it.
She's been doing an amazing job for, how long have you been doing that, Nancy? I mean,
13 years.
it would be nice if somebody could give her a break.
13.
Anybody want to step up?
I'm happy to help with anything that's needed.
Is that a,
Was that an official, you'll be the clerk and take the minutes?
I think my update emails that I send the group probably show that I could handle the job.
there you
Yes,
go. I agree. Okay.
I'll
Okay,
make that motion.
all right. So we have Chris nomination for the clerk's position. We have a second.
Second,
Great. Any further discussion? Any other nominations?
When do you need me to start?
Tonight.
Tonight?
Okay.
Okay. All right. All those in favor for Chris to become the clerk of the committee and give Nancy a well-deserved break, say aye.
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 Abstain.
Any opposed? Great. Okay. We have a new slate for our building committee. Thank you, everybody.
Yay.
Okay, all right, let's move on to 51 Main Street. So in your packet, I had sent out progress drawings that Chris and his team, and by the way, everybody, meet Elliot. Elliot, I apologize, I can't remember your last name. Working with Chris and his team at Context. Chris has some further revisions. Actually, I included in my packet, so I can bring it up. Can everybody see my screen okay without the, you don't see all the other windows, right?
Yes.
Or do you?
Nope.
You can see the plans?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the updated, these are the updated plans that we had sent out as part of your package. So Chris and Elliot and their team did a great job incorporating all the comments received at our previous meeting to try to make the necessary adjustments to the plan, provide for additional the additional office or positions that may be created in town. This is version A1. I don't want to spend a lot of time on A1 or A2 because we made an additional revision after Chris had sent me initial version of these to take a look at. And as I had said in my email, one of the things that I like the version A2. My concern was on the second floor with this meeting room space. I know that was a request that was made, to try to have a small meeting space up on the second floor. But I think, as you can all tell, that really kind of cuts up that space up on the second floor. And my thought was that we're able to incorporate a nice meeting room on the first floor, along with the very large community room. And if it wasn't going to be too much of an inconvenience, I thought it would make the second floor a lot cleaner, the layout a lot cleaner, and provide more space on the second floor if we could eliminate that meeting room. And which Context was able to do, and they provided a third version. So before we jump right over to A3, does anybody have any comments or preferences from the first two versions that were sent out? And Chris, feel free to jump in at any point here.
Sure. I should say that part of A3 was also looking for ways that we could tighten up some of the square footage of the building. We're trying to keep the building around 10,000 square feet, which is where it was 2 years ago. And part of adding additional program to the building and maintaining a large community meeting space, the building did grow a little bit initially, and so we're trying to rein that back in. And so we were able to accomplish that a little better with A3.
Okay, great. Okay, before I jump to that, I see Mr. Morris has a question.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Good, cool. Hey, I'm actually want to make a couple overriding comments regarding this project. And I'm really speaking on behalf of my grandson, Miles, who's 15 months old, a town resident. He couldn't make it tonight, but he asked me to log in. And so I'm going to speak on his behalf regarding this particular building and other projects under your purview. But with respect to 51 Main Street, it seems to me that you have a golden opportunity to demonstrate the town's commitment to a net zero future as expressed at the 2019 special town meeting by ensuring projects like this are created in a sustainable and efficient way right from the design outset, which would include electrification of the HVAC system, solar panels if practical, and LEED certification if at all possible. Now, whatever you do today and over the coming weeks as you refine the project will be with us for the next 20 to 30 years. So this is the right time frame to be looking to phase out fossil fuels in our construction. And decisions you make regarding that topic are critical if the town is to meet its challenge of net zero by 2050. Now, I've been told that the select board has been given you explicit directions to actively engage with the Clean Energy Committee on this project to ensure it meets the needs of the town in all respects. Now, that may not be the lowest cost approach, but it might be a best value approach that includes other factors such as energy efficiency and resiliency. I've also been told that the Clean Energy Committee has not been actively involved in the project yet, and they haven't been helping in shaping the final design to meet its own mission, which is to help provide leadership along the lines of a future net zero town. I hope I'm wrong in that impression, but that's the one I have, and that's why I'm attending the meeting. And I had sent a note to Scott regarding this as well. I think the note made it to you, Tom, regarding, I just did a first order look at whether the building itself could even handle solar. And using, Google's rooftop program, it looked like it actually could handle solar. So this building actually, as I say, could be a real statement of the town's commitment to a net zero future. And I'm hoping that that's being incorporated into the design as we speak. I see the layouts here. It's my first opportunity to look at it in this detail. But I'm hoping that you and the Clean Energy Committee are working collectively in pursuing design features that make it energy efficient and sustainable for the future. So that's sort of an overall broad comment that I wanted to make before I lose my train of thought here. But that's all I wanted to say at this point.
Okay, thank you. I mean, yes, in specific response to your question regarding, the involvement of the Clean Energy Committee. I mean, yes, we've been working with Mike Belinsky and their committee, since really the outset of this project. And to this point, what we're trying to been focusing on is to nail down the floor plan and the overall building design. And once we've got that finalized, then we are going to, move forward with public participation and also looking more, focusing more on building system and incorporating some of the systems that you've mentioned. Yes, and you'll be seeing further on here in the presentation that our consultants are considering incorporating solar arrays into this project. And I'm involved in the Capital Planning Committee, so I hear it at the Capital Planning Committee. I work very closely with Jody, and in her office. So we're very aware of the town's interests, making this a flagship project, and we as a committee are committed to doing the best we can to incorporate as many initiatives as possible into this.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Tom.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, Jody, I guess I'll take you and then Jean before we keep going here.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So I don't think we're looking at the picture. Are we looking at the right picture here?
No, this is what we're looking at, right? I was just asking if anybody,
Okay.
before we moved on to the final version, I just wanted to make sure nobody had any comments on the
Okay,
first
so
two.
I wanted to go to A2.
Okay, here it is.
And I guess before I get there, Paul Morris, I just want to say we are very committed to making this building as much as we can a showcase to our commitment to, clean and sustainable energy in our town. So we've talked a lot about it and we are committed, and you can even see that I have a future sustainability office in the plan. And we will get rid of plastic water bottles and all the other great ideas that have come our way. So we are committed to that. But Chris, I wanted to thank you. I think you did a spectacular job after the last meeting of getting all our ideas put together. And
Welcome.
I am completely supportive of removing the meeting room because you have meeting spaces in the open offices that you created here in facilities and in IT. So I think you just did a fantastic job and I'm just so pleased. And I wanted to just thank you for that.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Jody. Jean?
So it seems like we were going to talk more about the yellow slides. So I thought maybe we should talk about the first floor, which doesn't show up on the yellow slide, and there are two different versions. And so I wanted to state that I like the symmetry of A1 with the community room off the lobby. I think it'll just make the lobby feel nicer than A2, which gives you a larger meeting room. And I thought maybe we should have some discussion about that since there's a difference between the A1 and the A2 scheme.
I didn't see much of a difference. What do you, I know I'm scrolling back and forth real quick here.
The
what do you
doors from the community.
Mostly
Yeah.
doors, yeah.
Oh,
Right, the symmetry in A2 is altered on the community room side because the meeting room grows into that passage that you had an A1. So you have a smaller meeting room, you have a separate entrance into the side of the meeting room by the courtyard. Whereas on A2, you have a center entrance to the community room and a far entrance to the community room. You get into the courtyard side through the small meeting room.
Yeah, and I think that that informality is not as nice as the formality of A1. And it helps if you break it into 3 rooms, then you have 2 means of egress out of each room, which feels nice. So yeah, I would vote for the A1 first floor scheme if you're ever taking a vote on that.
Okay. Because the only thing that, with regard to the first floor that I guess I wasn't really that thrilled with was, moving the kitchenette out into the lobby.
Mhm.
I don't know how others feel about that.
Didn't even see that.
And I just, and I understand the reason why, why you had to do that. But I was just thinking that, I was kind of thinking that in the lobby where that kitchenette, space is, that could be almost like the display booth, and then on either side where you showed displays, like maybe those could be like benches.
Yep.
I just-
we haven't really had a chance to talk about these schemes. It was sort of every week I was sending new schemes to you guys. There's a lot to
Right.
digest. So some of the issues that we were wrestling with is around the lobby and the first floor, and then obviously the second floor layout. But focusing on the lobby, the question that we've been wrestling with is how do you view the community room being used if it were to be broken up into 3 spaces? Because you obviously have 2 large spaces and then a smaller space in the middle, which, obviously we could change that proportion. It just means, relocating how the partitions are stacked up in that sort of space that they occupy. Second question was the kitchenette, and I know it's not ideal to have it outside of the community room, but then if it's going to serve all rooms, it sort of has to be in a common space. Whereas if it were within one of those spaces, then you really couldn't use it for the other 2 if you were breaking it up into 3. So we were so A2 scheme was assuming that you would have, you would break up the room sort of in 1/3, 2/3, or you either do an entire, one entire community meeting room taking up the entire space, or you could do a 1/3 meeting room and a 2/3 meeting room, or you could do 2 larger meetings and then the center space where the title of the room is really could be your breakout space for those 2 rooms, therefore not using the lobby as a breakout space, because the lobby still has to, operate as a public space for the veteran services. So then the next layer of thought for A2 was providing some privacy to veterans offices. And I think do need to meet with Ryan and go through the new location of where they'd be and the way you'd see into their space. I know that he expressed to us that there are some very he has a lot of concerns about how the veterans come to meet with him and how they like to sit, and whether they feel comfortable being seen in there or whether they want to sort of be tucked around the corner. So I was a little concerned that making their entrance to their office right off the lobby without any sort of privacy, meaning if you're in the community room, you could open a door and look right into veterans. Would that be something that would be comfortable for them or not? And then the other notion is, would they prefer that wall that has a door to be a solid wall or a partially glazed wall? And if it is glazed, where would the seating and where would the administrative person be, so that there was some layer of privacy or some way that the veterans would feel comfortable being in that space. So those are things that I think we do need to explore more. And I think, Gene, you're absolutely right. A1 has a very symmetrical feel to it. And, Tom, you're correct. It'd be great to have built-in seating, because it's just one less thing you have to think about putting in that space. If you have to add furniture, I think a space like this would be difficult to keep furnished the way you want to do it, because there'll be a lot more traffic going through those spaces.
With the veterans, do they have an admin now?
There is an admin space, and then Ryan's office is the next room over. So I think
No, I know,
they-
but is there
yeah.
actually, Paul, I see Paul is shaking his head. They actually do have an admin?
Yes, they do, part-time,
They do, okay,
part-time.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Jody, Jody and Jean, let's see. Jody, go ahead.
Well, Jean, were you still, your hand was up before mine.
I have a
Wow.
question about the kitchenette. If it is the storage and the AV control spaces, are those as small as they can be? Because you could slide the kitchenette behind the AV control, create a little room off the hallway if those are bigger than they need to be. Just a thought.
In my experience, Gene, is AV rooms tend to never be as big as they need to be because of the equipment that goes into them. And usually a person is positioned in there during events. Now, it used to be you would always have to have a window from that room into the room so you could see what's being done. Nowadays, it's all done by remote, so you don't really need that as much. Because it is a public space, all these rooms off of the meeting room in the lobby have to be fully accessible. So we are limited a little bit in reducing them to a tight space, because you need to be able to service the racks and have a counter there with the equipment on it that's fully accessible. The same for the kitchenette, would have to make that an accessible kitchenette. So unfortunately, it does require a little bit more space than what one normally would think you'd need.
Jody, you have another question?
You're on mute.
Good thing I was just muted with what I said. Could we go down to the A2, please?
I think we're on A2.
Yeah, that's A2.
Okay,
Yeah.
then can you go up to A1? I'm trying to look at the kitchenette and see the difference. So could we flip back to A1, please?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat too from Emily Toller. I don't see any kitchen area labeled on the first floor. Also, is there, can there be just one unisex bathroom? Two seems excessive. Same on the second floor. I believe that's,
Now we
We
need
don't.
that. Yeah.
we need that. Yeah, we can't, can't reduce that.
So what I would say is it doesn't really bother me that the kitchenette it looks like it's outside of the meeting room on both of them.
Yes.
That doesn't really bother me because as we've had a kitchenette in the select board meeting room, a lot of the time we're trying to keep it clean, and people tend to leave dishes in the sink or whatever. So it doesn't really bother me that's not in that room, because the primary goal of that room is not going to be for eating. But Chris Logan, you said something about fixed seating. Were you talking about fixed seating in the big community room?
No, I may have been talking about a seating, a desk and a seat in the AV control room
Oh, okay.
for the
good.
person. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, because I don't want fixed seating.
No.
We had that in the police training room and we
Right.
found it very inefficient. So good.
No fixed
Um,
seating. No,
yeah,
that's
but-
what the storage room essentially is for, is to put in folding tables and folding seating. so you
Okay,
can-
good. So then the other thing I wanted to say is, yes, the veterans area does have a part-time admin. To me, if we were able to put some sort of frosting or whatever on the door, I think that would be sufficient. If somebody
Okay.
was really concerned about being seen there, I think that Ryan could set up appointments so it didn't coincide with a meeting in the meeting room. But
Mhm.
I personally, I mean, he's in Millennium now, right? And that's worked for many, many years. And so I don't see that as a big issue. I think privacy could be achieved. So I really like the plan, and very excited about it. So thank you.
Okay. Chris, you want me to jump ahead to what you sent out late tonight?
That'd be great. It's similar to A2 with the exception the second floor has some modifications that you talked about earlier, Tom. But I also want to just touch upon the site plan. And we really haven't put a lot of effort into the site plan yet, but we wanted to start putting the new footprint on the building. And we include this to show that the new building essentially occupies a very similar footprint to the old building. So therefore, it's not reducing the proposed parking changes at all. Although we know, once we get a little further into this project, we're going to be addressing some issues with the police department and their request to secure their parking area. So we'll have to revisit parking. But I want to show this just to illustrate a few of the changes that have been made with this new footprint. The old building, the older design, did not align the left-hand edge of the meeting room with the existing left-hand edge of the existing generator building. And we have done that this time, and the purpose being is to make that covered walkway that goes alongside the meeting room, the 51 Main Street building, to tie into the covered walkway that's at the existing generator building. And we're connecting over to the police station covered walkway. So now, even though it's not an indoor space, we're still maintaining that covered pathway from the police station lobby over to the 51 Main Street lobby. So that's essentially the purpose of the site plan, to show that it indeed fits. It also shows that the building is still set back from the street further than the face of Town Hall, so trying to be differential to Town Hall. And there's some very simple, quick renderings in the very back of this package that we can look at, which I think help illustrate that as well.
Okay. Yeah, Chris, I guess I didn't really think about it too much until I saw this site plan, but there's gonna be some challenges as this building's gonna, sort of wrap around that existing generator building, and you got two completely different roof lines here that you're gonna have to obviously deal with.
Yes, yeah, that's a challenging corner of the building, and I think that's one of the reasons one of our roof plans actually helps with that better than the previous design, which had a pitched roof back there, which was sort of difficult to handle around that wedge-shaped roof of the generator building.
And I noticed on the floor plan, maybe we could, when we jump ahead, but are we ending the rear of 51 Main prior to where the conduits go into the generator building? The tower?
That's the intent.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to pull that information off the as-built and off of our construction documents, but I'm pretty sure we're just a bit forward of that bump where the conduits come in.
Yeah, okay. And just for the group's information too, Chris and I had some back and forth also recently, kind of getting way ahead of ourselves here, but the whole issue about standby power for this building. Obviously, we're going to be butting right up against the existing generator, but for those that have been on the committee for a while, who may recall when we did Town Hall and we tied the existing generator into Town Hall, that generator only had a certain amount of capacity to be able to power up or provide backup power for certain systems, emergency systems at town hall. So it wasn't able to power all of town hall, police, and the old fire station. So when we get into the kind of those, get to that point in the design, there's going to have to be some sort of analysis on that generator and the backup power system as to how much, if any, of the systems in the new building this existing generator can support.
Right. So part of our proposal, Tom, this revisit phase is also having some discussions and recommendations from our mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, just because we want them to be engaged in this before we launch into the next phase of the project. So that's on our list already to talk about, is the fact that there will need to be a study of the old generator and the power demands for all three buildings. So a decision can be made as to what's the best and most prudent way to proceed.
Sure.
The new building will be separated from the generator building because they are two different structures, and the new building is also categorized as a essential building because it will house the town's IT. So it's important to maintain that. And I think this site plan actually it doesn't necessarily tell the whole story of that wall where the conduits are, Tom, because the second floor of the generator building extends 5 feet further towards Main Street than the first floor. So it looks like our new building's coming in halfway into the generator building, but it's really only coming in about a third of the way in. So I think we're in the green there, but we'll double check that.
Okay. All right. I saw Scott had his hand up, but it looks like he took it down.
I just want to make sure that we had, backup power for IT covered, and also, that new community room could be a possible, warming space in the future. If you have lots of power in town, that could be our town center refuge. So, as just making sure we have enough power for that. That's all.
Sure. Okay, Jean.
So as Chris is discussing having a meeting with his engineers, I guess we're in schematic design right now, and you're talking about as you move into design development, you'll be meeting with the engineers about the generator building. Would this be the right time to have a sustainability charrette with all the engineers and members from the town committees on sustainability, and really hear from them so they don't need to keep coming to our meetings one by one and asking for more, asking for us to think about sustainability? It just seems like it would be the opportunity for all of this to come together, and the engineers can hear what the needs are. They can develop solutions for the building that are sustainable and kind of, moves it forward.
Sure. I mean, I think that would be good. Probably a good point. Scott, did you want to add on to that?
I really just thought, when we had the fire station in this building, the select board had a delegate to town building committee. So I'm thinking that it would make sense we have a delegate from the Clean Energy and Safety Committee to this building committee for this building. Someone who's, every meeting they were invited, they can attend, they can hear about it, they report back to their committee. Given that, I think, importance and visibility in town, that might be a good thing to do. At least ask if that's of interest to the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you agree, Chris?
I do, and Tom, we've actually had those types of charrette sessions for other projects. We presently we're working on 2 other jobs, which are their goal is to achieve net zero. We're using the same electrical and mechanical plumbing engineers for this project as we're using for those 2, and we have completed a project recently in Medford. The the Medford Police Building is all electric and a very low carbon footprint. So our engineers are very experienced. We've also, if we need to, we can bring on a sustainability consultant. We're doing that with 2 other projects right now, and they're very helpful doing energy modeling and modeling the benefit of PV, whether that's a vertical PV or a horizontal PV installation. So I think there are a lot of resources out there that we can tap into. I think it's just a matter of deciding, to what extent and what the building is best suited for from a, volumetric perspective. And I could certainly reach out to some of them just to get their ideas based upon our sketches now to see if, what they'd recommend as a proposal. If the
Okay.
town wants to pursue that.
All right, I see Mike Polinsky has a question.
Yes, thank you. Mike Berlinski here. I am chair of the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. Thanks for having me. Thanks for this discussion. Just say, as a recap, I have been following this project since its start, checking in with the Permanent Town Building Committee and Chair Tom Mahana. I appreciate the idea, proactive idea to have charrette. I think that makes sense. I and other members of our committee, as well as other interested members from the community, I think would be very interested in participating in that. And then also I'd say I have been and will continue to be the rep from Clean Energy Committee for this project and other projects at the Permanent Town Building Committee until we find someone else who wants to take over that. But for now, please consider me the rep, the lead, and I'll share information and involve others as appropriate. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Okay, you want me to move on, Chris?
Sure.
Okay, so this is version 8, revision A3.
A3. So this is incorporates a lot of the comments from A1 and A2. You will see the first floor of the building follows the A2 layout with a larger meeting room and the lobby, which is not as symmetrical as A1 was. However, we have changed the wall that has a display and the kitchenette to be symmetrical around the entrance to the community room, and the added displays are incorporated symmetrical display cabinets near the side of the door to the meeting community room as well. I believe this is that's the only change that you'll see in the first floor of A3 from the A2 scheme. And then the second floor is where you see a few more changes. So by eliminating the second meeting room on this level, we have now made the corridor is now a direct corridor, linear corridor that goes from the stair all the way to the community wellness coordinator, with entrances off of that for IT as well as facilities. And then we have the future sustainability office next to the community wellness office. There is a alcove that has a janitor's closet and a copy area. So we still are, maintaining the program that we presently had. There's a small break room that obviously could get larger because of the space between the copy room and the janitor's closet is quite generous. So that would be a small tweak that we would make. The facilities office got a little larger in the respect that the file storage area is a bit deeper. We took away the chase on the second floor, that being a passage for pipes and ducts and that sort of thing, because we were able to make a more efficient chase in the storage room beyond. Earlier, I talked about the square footage being reduced slightly. You'll notice that the front mass of the second floor, the depth of it is not as deep as it would appear on the first floor. The reason being is we have made, and you'll see this in the 3D renderings, we've made the volume of the front of the building a little narrower so we can have a steeper pitch, more in line with the pitch of the town hall roof. and it's a less large a volume as you see it from the town common or coming up Main Street heading towards the town common. I think that's the only further changes that you hadn't seen the last scheme. We have a few more ideas of some other interior changes, and those I think would be specific to the departments. I'd like to work with the departments on those, but no really large movements on the overall building.
Mike and Paul, any comments?
It's Mike. No, I mean, obviously the furniture as drawn is just for the purposes of showing scale really at the moment, but I'm happy with the space that the IT department has there. I'm very pleased that we have a large storage and receiving area, because I think removing the need for us to store things in the office area itself means we can make a more efficient use of that space. And I know Paul and I talked about it, or exchanged emails about this earlier today, that we don't see a problem with that meeting room not being there from our perspective as department heads. We have enough space in our departments to have a meeting if we need one. And if we need a quiet word, there's always the break room or our own offices. So.
Paul Fox, again, Chris, thank you for all this. I really enjoyed this rendering specifically. I would like the opportunity to go back and talk to my facilities team. There might be one or two more things to request, but as Mike mentioned, obviously a lot of these things are just there for scale purposes, and I think that what is here is going to provide more than enough for us for what we need. So thank you for that, and I definitely do echo Mike's comment. I think that we'll be hard pressed not to find a place to meet in this building.
Can I ask about the second floor of the generator building? Does it actually overhang the first?
It does. Yeah. Yeah. That's the covered passage between the generator building and the fire station is actually the generator building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Zegowitz, I see you have your hand up.
Hey, so I just, I too want to say, geez, I think this, the thought that's been put into the second floor has yielded some great results. It just looks like everything grew there just by cleaning up that circulation spine and being a little more rigorous with some of those partitions. It looks fantastic. I think there's just, the spaces there are, they look to me like they're pretty generous and going to be well used. As well as I'm really interested in seeing the elevations. I'm really dying to see what's going on, because the massing of that front lateral mass always has been sort of nagging at me, in that it's a little shy of the first floor, and I was always curious why, because one of the things that I don't like about the first floor, and it's not that bad, but it seems like the real main public entrance from the parking side. I know I had a little whine about the front entrance facing the street, and I think that looks fantastic now. I think it's gonna have given the size of that front vestibule, we'll have a proper public persona as the building reaches out towards the street. But I was always kind of curious about the overlap between the second floor and the first floor, and that the first floor sticks out beyond the second floor. And I always thought, gee, why don't we just capture that space? I know everybody's struggling for space, but this has cleaned it up so well. And I think that second floor just looks great. I'm really curious how we're going to add some sort of warmth to that little entrance that's sort of tucked in between the machine room and the elevator, and all those rooms that will have probably no windows. I know you can do it though, Chris. I'm dying for this.
Yeah, it's going to take some studying. We know that is, we don't want it to be cavernous, and we will look at that more closely. It is a little over 5 feet in width, but still, compared to what you have in the front of the building, it's not. It doesn't say, "Here I am. This is my entry." Yeah, but
you probably gain some construction efficiencies by lining up those partitions on the first floor with that second floor mass as well.
Yes, so that would now be
yeah,
considered line of bearing. So we're trying to the goal here isn't just to sort of revisit the design, but also to, go the next step, which is beginning to think about the buildability of it and the cost effectiveness of how to build a building like this, because
Yes, this really looks
Yeah.
good.
yeah.
Oh, looks great.
Great.
All right, should we launch into
Absolutely.
the so this sheet just illustrates possible roof plans for, and it could be for any of the schemes because the footprint is pretty much the same. Left-hand roof plan is showing a main gable over the meeting room portion of the building, a small gable over the entry off of Main Street, but the rest of the building has a flat roof with a parapet, meaning a taller end wall around the perimeter of the roof. So it would drain to interior drains, but this would allow for a flat roof to mount a solar array on, which I think would not be terribly visible from the street because the parapet, at least the rendering you'll look at later, you really can't see that much into that roof. So you might see a little bits, the tips of the array, but it's not going to be as visible.
What would
And
the
then-
approximate square footage be there, Chris, of that flat area?
Let's see, the whole building, that's about 5,000 a floor. So that's probably between about maybe 25 to 3,000 at the most, Tom.
Okay.
So we're showing it set back from the parapet because you have to have a walking area around the array for serviceability of the panels. So that's why we dotted that area in like that. And obviously this isn't taking into account, mechanical equipment because we still
Yeah,
have
I
to
was
deal
just
with
gonna point that out.
where
Yeah,
that's going to go. So, the fact of the matter is the mechanical spaces are all below that area next to the generator building, which is actually probably the least efficient layout for solar panels because there's this little L coming off of the main mast. But that would be, the next step is to look at where roof penetrations are, equipment is, and how that affects the layout of the array.
Sure.
So then the scheme on the right-hand side is going back to more of a traditional gable roof. It's a little more challenging at the generator building because that has a wedge-shaped roof heading towards the police station. You can see on this roof, we're stating that the array would be on the more or less a south-facing pitch of the gable over the office area. So you have less square footage here than you do on the flat roof. And it's a lower pitched roof because it's tying into the main gable of the front pitch. So again, the pitch of the roof is not going to be it won't be perceived strongly from the street. It'll look more like a low pitch, almost flat roof from the ground.
Okay. Chris, did you have a question on the roof?
Yeah, sure. Quickly, I just wanted to mention that we don't necessarily need to have the PV array and the building associated with each other. With net metering, the PV array could be anywhere in town and still credit towards this building. So if the building's getting compromised with the PV array or the PV array is getting compromised because of the building, there are other options to consider. Utilizing other space in town that has good visibility to the sun. So I just wanted to say there's a degree of freedom there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We just did finish a building up in Maine. They did not add the array as part of the base contract. However, we have all the provisions for it. And given the roof design and the orientation of the building, they chose to use a field that was, 500 feet from the building where the array will go. And we ran out conduits, brought them to the right location in the building and brought them out to the right location out to the field so they can build their array. And they're planning on building a whole city array out there from multiple buildings. So that is actually a good thing to bring up. Thank you.
Well, we have all that space to the rear of town hall.
We do, we do.
Jody will give it permission. We'll put the array out there. Okay, we have a comment in the chat from Emily Teller regarding the roof plan. Wouldn't a sloped / pitch roof be far better than a flat roof, especially in winter for snow removal? Also, I think if this is our flagship building, that people being able to see a solar PV array is fine. Yes, that's true, Emily. I mean, the first version of this design was specifically just a was only incorporating a sloped roof, but you know, we asked Chris and his team to to look at what we could do to accommodate a PV array. But as you can see, by doing so, even with both the sloped and a flat roof, I mean the amount of space that's available for PV array within this building is minimal. But you are right. I mean, the sloped roof would be, would probably be preferred from a number of reasons for this building, for obviously for snow and ice, and also from an aesthetic standpoint. At least that's my personal opinion. Okay, on to the elevations, Chris.
Sure. So we didn't do straight on elevations for this exercise. We actually did some 3D sketches, 3D modeling, which then we sketched over them. I think the purpose of that is to give you more of an impression as to what the building would look like from Main Street, looking towards the Common or looking towards Town Hall. And we included on that page the former rendering a couple of years ago that was taken sort of at the Common, looking towards the center building. At that time, we called the center building and Town Hall. So upper left-hand rendering is from a couple of years ago. The building a little bit different in massing than it is now. It had a 2-story element on the front, which had like a portico, but you couldn't enter into it. It was really a display area that looked into the meeting room. And it had gables either side. So that main front entrance roof was the roof that went all the way through the building. And then you had gables off of it. What we're showing here is that the main gable would be perpendicular to Town Hall. And then the front piece, the entrance, would only be a 1-story element on that main gable. And so you can see how the first floor extends into this little walkway on the right and left-hand side of the building, thus making the first floor sort of deeper in that greater width. And then as you get up to the second floor, it reduces down, which allows us to have a gable roof more in keeping with the slope that's on the Town Hall building itself, whereas before we were quite challenged in getting a roof that was similar in slope because of the size of the gable. And then this scheme is showing the parapet wall in the back of the building with the flat roof beyond, the elevator being an element that rises outboard on the building, partly outboard, and then returns with a hip roof into the parapet area. So if we had a gable back on the back of the building, that would actually start below the height of the parapet, like 3 feet down, and then would slope up to a ridge and then back down again. Just from a material perspective, what we're still looking at is a granite base on this building, and then a clapboard sided structure and a shingle roof. And then more traditional corner trim and an eave trim around the building.
These are operable windows
Yes,
on the second floor and the first floor.
yes, yeah. I think we'd try to replicate the proportions of some of the windows in Town Hall and make them operable.
Mike Berlinski, I see you got a question.
Hang on.
Okay, I think you can hear me now. Great, thanks. Yeah, going back to the roof and solar, I appreciate the comment on virtual net metering. And I know the town does take advantage of that. But assuming there's some solar on site, and going back to the comment about standby backup power, just wanted to mention the option of battery storage. The solar and storage go together well as independently with tax credits and can provide a lot of services. So I just wanted to mention that. But it leads to the question of, is there space considered here if it made sense to include battery storage? I don't know if there was a basement with utilities or if there might be space, but talking about design, I think that is an important design consideration, just as the consideration for different solar layouts on the roof design. Thanks.
There isn't a basement, Mike, due to ledge. We do have the mechanical room on the first floor, and the second floor above the mechanical room is a large town storage room. So we could carve some space out of there for battery storage.
Thanks.
Let's see, who's got their hand up? Chris.
I just say quickly that, yeah, I considered the battery storage too, but we have to think about power outages for days rather than just the hours that batteries could provide. So you're still going to need a generator, just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and then the generator is a necessity because it's because of IT in the building. It's an essential facility.
Correct.
Do you have another comment, Mike?
Nope, sorry, I'll lower my hand.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any other questions or comments on the elevations or the plans in general?
Just relative to the elevations, Chris, I'm happy you're going to try to look at the existing window size, scale, divided lights, and all of that in the existing town hall to try to find a similar scale. I think the sketch that you have, which I know is just a sketch and it's early on, but building feels it looks a little residential, but with a big, kind of like a big barn idea. Just because you've got public spaces, so you need more height than residential. So it's feeling a little kind of big for its detailing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thinking maybe your next round, you add another layer of detailing that, I don't know if it's trim, if it's what it is, but something to get that scale to feel not like a house that's too big for itself.
No, I completely agree, Jane. These are really thumbnail sketches over the Revit model, which I didn't feel the Revit model was going to do anything justice at this point, because you can't really add the detail into it at this stage. So they also turned out green. I'm not too sure why. It's like green tea or something.
Because I know it's probably still, way early in the plan, but, as you were mentioning before, how, this new building is going to sit considerably far back from Main Street, similar to the distance of Town Hall sits back, but any thoughts or ideas on, how we're going to tie the front entrance into the parking lot or connect it into Main Street? Obviously we have a lot of, potentially have a lot of green space out front here.
Right. We haven't engaged any of our consultants yet to look at these new studies. However, there was an iteration of the landscape plan when we're looking at the connection between the old center building and the courtyard that had a wider, broader entry from Main Street into the courtyard area and into the center building.
Oh, yeah.
So we would probably continue along that vein. I'm not so sure we would have it. I'm just speaking off the cuff. I'm not so sure we'd have a direct entry from Main Street right to the center entrance of the meeting room. I think I'd prefer to sort of come in from the right and left and then come across the front of the building and into it. So you could have some nice planting areas between the building and the walkway, and a nice planting bed between the that walkway and Main Street to continue the green strip that you presently have up and down Main Street now. And that would also provide a nice connection between the pathway from Town Hall through the courtyard to the new building, as well as from the parking lot into the new building. If you were to open up the front entry of it, for events, or it gives you the option of having, the two side entrances plus the front entry open, and you'd have walkways to all of those. That would be considered like a plaza walkway.
Okay. Yeah, because I think, like, for example, I mean, I know this, obviously the large, what is the maple tree?
Yeah, that
that's right
remains.
there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
that,
is to be remain and protected. So that hasn't been touched at all.
yeah,
There
there's
is a yeah.
right here, right? Another
Yes.
one.
Yeah. And there's also a memorial over there too. So we need to be cognizant of that as well. The Firefighter Memorial, I believe.
Right. Okay.
That would be, I mean, I think the whole siting of the building and how the different sides are treated are very important, because they all have sort of distinct existing features around them. And whether that be the antenna structure for the generator building or the generator building in itself, the existing covered walkway that went over to the fire station, the trees and the memorials. I mean, every side has something going on that we have to be cognizant of.
Great. Okay. I don't see anybody else got their hands up. So, Jody, I see you're still on. So I did make Chris aware of the January 11th Select Boards meeting. Is that right? January 11th, just to try to give him as much of a heads up if that's still. If you still want to have us target that date for a presentation to the select board.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Chris, that's doable, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's in our calendar.
Okay.
So, yeah, our next step, I mean, we outlined it week by week as to what we'd be working on. We're hoping today the goal would be to get affirmation of the second floor layout, which I think we have received, so we can proceed with that. The next step that we're looking at is studying the building biometrically with the different elevations. I think the first floor could go either way. I think that the symmetry from A1 is, it's more harmonious. A2, I don't think it distracts it too much. And the only reason I say that, Gene, is already A2 has a little bit of an asymmetry between the corridor by the elevator and then the veterans office. So we made in A3, we made that line of display and kitchenette, symmetrical around the lobby entrance. And Tom, we could sort of look at that, revisit that, and put in benches and other things, there instead of displays. But that layout could go either way because it's not affecting the exterior of the building. So our task is right now, I've been started the process of preparing something which I can talk to planning, land use about. We know we're going to have to get a special permit for this building. So there is a timeline for that we'd have to adhere to. And I just have to check. I started doing some research into the building codes just to make sure that we're still fine with our occupancy count and the one stair. The fact that veterans moved downstairs and it was always planned to be a 2-person office with visitors. Now we have, 2 new offices, 1 person each, and conceivably, fewer visitors than we would have if it was veterans. I think we might be okay, but I just want to double check all of our exit pathways and, for one stair building.
Do you think we're okay from egress as far as distance wise?
Yeah, that's what I need to check is the distances. We've made a few changes in the IT office as far as where the entrance is, which might help us. I just have to do the math and make sure it's all still working. And if it isn't, we have a couple ideas that might bring it back into good shape. But I'll let
Just
you know.
add a small window off of Mike's office onto that first floor roof and just tell him he's got to jump out onto the roof in case of a fire.
I thought Jody offered me a rope ladder or something to throw out the window. Isn't that right, Jody?
Yeah, we gave several of those to people in the town hall.
You serious?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it was part of Alice training. If they were
Yeah.
locked in their offices and needed to get out, some of them are quite a long drop.
I prefer golden parachutes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. Chris, I was just thinking one other quick comment though, kind of along Jim's comment about the entry. I mean, worst case scenario, if you had to stretch this a little bit to give a little bit more space to create, more of a more defined or pronounced entry. Yeah, I suppose you
can do it. It's certainly doable. We have a little bit of extra space in the front without aligning with the front of town hall. We could add a little bit there. We're just trying, and this is really the whole purpose of this exercise, was trying to be efficient with our uses of square footage in areas which are viewed as common. Before we used to have, the previous scheme had a very generous lobby, and it was nice, but wasn't really needed. And so that's why we're tightened up a bit. But I think it's at the minute, those vestibules are at the minimum size you ever want them to be. And it may not be appropriate with this building to be that tight. So, we can go back and revisit that.
Okay.
And, we have a little bit of room in the meeting room and in the, we'll do some layouts of AV and storage. But if we even bring that wall a little bit, tighter, it gives us some more room without increasing the footprint.
Great. Great. Okay. Somebody just raised their hand. Jody.
Yeah, one more thing, just about the parking lot. We have a placeholder in the town meeting after our spring town meeting. If this building is approved and by both town meeting and the ballot, then we will proceed at the next town meeting to expand the town hall parking lot into, the area that we took for 63 Main. So that would provide some additional parking, not necessarily for this building, but, for the town hall and overflow.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and what Chris was referring to earlier, Chief Chambers had reached out to me about a week or so ago, I think after the last capital meeting, just wanted to make sure that, we're still considering what Chief McEnany's request was when our initial, go around on this design and the site plan about trying to provide a secure area, for police vehicles or impounded vehicles, in this parking lot. So, as we start to move forward with the whole, refinement of the site plan, those are some of the issues that we, will continue to take into consideration and incorporate as best we can. All right.
Yep. That's
great. All right. Well, Chris, Elliot, thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you. It's nice to see everyone.
Yeah, great discussion.
Yes. Yeah.
If I don't
feel
talk
free
to you, have a nice holiday. Tom, I'm
Yes.
sure I'll be talking to you.
Sure, yes, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elliot. All right,
Thanks.
great.
Bye-bye.
Night,
Okay,
everyone.
good night. So let's keep moving here on the agenda. All right, why don't we jump into Senior Center RFP update next, and then I know Eric Heidemann and Jody, is she's still on. I might want to take North Main and fire training out of order. So why don't we turn it over to Paul and Chris and give us an update on Senior Center.
Oh, awesome. So we just had a recent meeting on site last week with CES, John Raybach, who is the proposed project manager for the project. Met with myself, Chris, facilities operations supervisor, Jeff, Jen Clara was there, and Chris, the custodian, the maintenance guy on site, was also heavily involved in this project, as well as I think Tom Teller from the Energy Committee. So we had, it was a great opportunity, a bunch of questions, opportunity to really get to know who this contractor is and to really work out some of our townwide concerns, but also really to establish and set the expectations. So there was definitely a lot of back and forth, but I think at the end, we were all very comfortable with what is being proposed and what we believe the end result and deliverable on the project will be. So there is a memo that is before the select board for Tuesday afternoon to allow us to enter into a contract with CES to get the ball rolling on this project. The contractor is aware that we are looking for construction estimates come really end of April is going to be very much so pushing it, but we do have the placeholder already on capital plan cycle, so we will continue to keep capital planning apprised to where we believe we're going with this. And then there's obviously going to need to be a lot of back and forth with the Energy Committee as well as this committee on exactly what the end proposed project does look like. But it will be their obligation to consider a few possibilities, a few solutions for the project, mainly surrounding energy efficiency, as well as just long-term and reliable needs for the building itself. We certainly can't go down this road again in the future. So that's really the update for where we're at. Chris was definitely there, and he can absolutely speak and attest to all this as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Chris?
Yeah, and, exactly as Paul mentioned, and the charge to the engineers to basically look at three options. One is replacing refrigerant-based system that was previously installed, but with a later generation piece of equipment or set of equipment. And then the other two alternatives would be to move to a hydronic system, one that either have an air source heat pump or, as Tom Teller suggested, a ground source heat pump. And so the engineer is going to give us pros and cons for those three options, and then we'll meet again and down select and then give them direction for design.
Great. Yeah, and thank you for your recap that you sent out. One thing that did catch my attention in your summary was the comment that was made about the problems that they're having with ice, snow and ice on the roof, and that nothing that may not have been addressed as part of the expansion. I mean, we had spent a substantial amount of money on an ice melt system up there. Is that not operational anymore?
From what I understand, it's still operational. Chris there mentioned that he has, I think he said specifically, has 4 switches he can control, but I still don't think it's a solution to the problem. And they were wondering if that's part of this project. And so actually, I'm glad you brought it up, because it's a topic I wanted to ask. Is that something that is a permanent town building committee project, or is that something that would be a facilities project to ensure that there's safe entry and to solve that problem of the icing sidewalks from stuff coming off the roof? We all agreed it was outside the scope of this HVAC repair. It's more of a building envelope issue. But it's definitely affecting the usability and of course the safety of the building. If we have air handlers falling out, worrying about air handlers falling out of the ceiling, we should definitely be worrying about seniors slipping, getting in and out of the building.
Yeah, I mean, I know this came up a couple of years ago too, and I think they were at one point were talking about looking at trying to construct more of a covered walkway. I mean, Nancy, you could help me out here. You obviously more connected with that than I was, and I don't think that ever went anywhere, obviously, but it sounds like the ice melt system just isn't sufficient enough, and they still in bad winters we've still continue to have problems with icing on the sidewalk.
Nothing like we had before the ice melt system was put in place, but we've had, the audience that we take care of there is definitely, we have to be more careful. And we have talked about putting a covered walkway, but where to? If there could be some kind of I almost want to say ridge vent thing so that it couldn't ice down there, but I don't know what the solution is for that.
I would mention that, there might be two problems here. One is falling debris, and the other is icy sidewalks. And the second one of the icy sidewalks may be a function, maybe a topic that we want to explore during this HVAC issue if we were going to consider doing any radiant sidewalk repair, just to make sure that we have a rough idea what that heat load may be and be sure that's put into the engineering planning for the building. But I know I'm proposing the solution before we've talked about the whole thing, but there's a coupling there.
Okay. All right. Anybody got any questions or comments on Senior Center? Jody.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember we talked about this a few years ago. And I've got to think about this a little bit. And I did just text Eric. I think it is a problem different from the HVAC, and something that we can certainly look at. But I guess I'd want to, he's texting me, it was before his time, Eric, but I think I haven't heard this is still an ongoing problem, and I think it's something we need to talk about, but I do see this, that we're fast tracking the HVAC. I see this as separate. We haven't talked to Capital about it or any of that. So if it's something we need to start talking about again, let's do it.
And I'll just add quickly too that, as we explore the charter of the Permanent Town Building Committee, it may be just to circle around and have discussions with the users of our buildings that we've delivered in the past, just to see what the issues are, just to see how well the building's performing based on the needs and what problems there may be. I think that here in this instance, a discussion of heating and cooling inside is actually eliciting a problem outside the building. So there may need to be some other forum inserted into the town's process to get these things surfaced.
Okay, great, thank you. Paul, while you have the floor, you want to just give a quick update there on Frost School? I saw your email that you sent out. That was pretty cool. How did you do that, by the way, that virtual walkthrough?
I would love to take the credit for that. Unfortunately, we don't have that technology in-house. Yeah, okay. Maybe it's something to throw on in the future. But yeah, certainly very neat. That virtual walkthrough is great, and it's really telling. I have also shared along a couple PDFs. I think, Tom, you were on that last email, but I'll make sure that you see it specifically highlights the different levelings of the floor that we're having an issue with. So just a quick recap, this Frost School repair is basically focused on an insurance claim that we're currently going down. There was an excessive amount of water that leaked throughout the building. Since the Frost Road and Bush portion of it has been displaced to the Millennium School, and we're focusing on the repairs. The new general contractor that is hired through our insurance carrier has found the floors, and we're more than capable of putting in place those historic floors that were once there already. The problem that we're running into is that a considerable amount of settling, specifically more so in one area, has taken place where they don't feel comfortable, and nor should we feel comfortable installing these floors. They're eventually just going to break if the underlying issue is not fixed. So what they're exploring, and they brought in a structural engineer to look at it, is to resecure one area to prevent against any future settling that may take place, and then to try to level out the joist by adding in more flooring support, ultimately creating a new level on the floor, and then to install that new hardwood floor on top. Another issue that they're running into is that in all the classrooms, there were 2 layers of flooring that were done. That second layer of flooring was most likely due to issues on that first layer of flooring that we would experience if we didn't fix this first settling issue that I just discussed. So there are different levels. After the solution is, after the settling is taken care of and a new ground layer can be basically worked off on for the base of the first floor, it will just be a one floor level, or excuse me, a one flooring that's put in on top. And then that's just left with, there will be some areas where we have 2 inches of exposed area around it. So something like quarter round won't be the solution, but it will be a large piece of trim and baseboard that's placed around the exteriors of the building to really tie it all together. After soft conversations with the structural engineer, we have a lot of work to still do up front right now for what the full scope of work will be. But as long as the solution can be obtained by securing that settling that took place, we're still looking at that February timeframe that was initially put out from the beginning. So even with this large amount of work, we should still be on target for what our projection was. Happy to answer any more questions about the project and where we are, though.
Okay. So Road and Bush is obviously, they've made the necessary arrangements to relocate for the long term until this is resolved.
Road and Bush has been able to accommodate, I believe the stat was 90%, maybe it was 80%. It's really the preschool, or not the preschool, it's the infant population that they were not able to accommodate in the millennium. So anybody that has what's classified as an infant, and I'm sorry, I don't know what those necessary determination factors are on that, wasn't able to be absorbed by the millennium, but they were able to get all the other students, which is the majority of it. Again, I think it's about 80 to 90% of the students they were able to take care
of. Okay. All right. Great. Anybody got any questions for Paul or Chris on Frost, or for Paul on Frost? All right. Great. Thank you very much, Paul. Let's jump ahead here. Well, we still have Jody and Eric. Let's jump ahead to 12 North Main Street. And I don't know if Jody or Eric, who's going to take the lead on this, but we had a brief conversation this morning regarding permanent town committees getting a role on the 12 North Main Street. So I don't know if you've all had a chance to review Eric's email. So Eric or Jody, if you guys want to kind of give us a quick summary. And
yeah, so I'll just say a couple of words and then turn it over to Eric. But just so everybody knows, the select board did dissolve the 12 North Main Street Task Force. They did reject the last proposal we had because they wanted to take over the building clean, and they were planning to do that for $5,000, and the board felt that was outside the scope. So Eric is going to update you. The select board did ask for the historical commission to come and bring a recommendation, which they did recently. And Eric has been successful at receiving a very large grant. So Eric, if you want to take it over.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks for everyone for having us on the agenda, short notice. So as Jody mentioned, the Historical Commission has provided their recommendation for the parcel, which I've included in the packet. Well, I emailed out actually today. So they're looking to downsize the property by approximately 1/3 and then to preserve the remaining sections of it and to incrementally take on different sections piecemeal. The exterior cleanup, we estimated about $535,000, and we received $240,000 through a One Stop for Growth grant program. So we're hoping to get that started as quickly as possible. And we wanted to involve the PTBC just because it seemed like this was going to turn into a building construction project and it was going to exceed $50,000. The last memo I provided to the select board was just updating them that regardless if we do demolition from here or partial restoration and selective demolition, we will need to identify an owner's project manager for this project. So I think our goal is to just start the conversation with PTBC and get you guys involved and see what your opinion is as far as the next steps.
So what's your timing on this, Eric?
So as of right now, we're just finalizing the grant documents and we're going to get started on the exterior cleanup portion as soon as we can, as long as the ground doesn't freeze. If it doesn't, we'll be on delay till spring. And then from there, I think the idea is to try to get some sort of consensus on which direction we should go with this, because we will require an appropriation. There's currently approximately $135,000 remaining in a previous CPA appropriation when we were originally just stabilizing the structure and beginning to address the hazardous materials at the site.
Mhm.
I see Jody has her hand up.
Jody?
Yes, so we plan to report to the board on January 11th when, you'll be there too. We're trying to kind of capture what the result would be if the board goes along with the Historical Commission recommendation, kind of try to capture the process, the cost, how it would impact cleanup, that sort of thing. It's obviously very complex project, but we're going to try to boil that down into easy to understand steps and decisions for the select board to make, and whether they make them that night or not, at least we'll, get closer to that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to go through all of the information you forwarded along, Eric, today. I don't know if other members of the committee have specific questions. I'm just opening up the email that or the attachment that Historical Commission sent. So anybody have any questions or comments?
Actually, at our very first 12 North Main Street, David Gutbrod brought up the plan to dismantle part of 12 North Main and had a picture of a church, and I think it was in Boston, that it was just the front facade and the back was totally new. So that's not a new plan. That he did present that to 12 North Main in the beginning. He didn't have a plan for it, just that that's what he thought should be done with it. And Eric has done yeoman amount of work to get where we're at now. To be able to start cleaning up will be wonderful. It's been a long time coming.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having issues trying to open some of these documents. So the big one I can't. It's taking a long time. Okay. What can we do?
I think more than anything, Tom, we want to get it on PTBC's radar. I don't know what extent it's been through the years, but at this point, if the board decides to on our own, the town without a partner, preserve while we're cleaning up, we need you to be a part of that. So we're not really looking for any decisions tonight, just get you in the loop and let you know what's going on.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, so well, I just asked that, all the members of the committee, when you get a chance, go through the email, review. See if I can pull some of this up. Review the documents, and we can discuss again at a future meeting. It would be nice to finally get this place cleaned up and turned into something that beneficial for the town.
Yes, it would.
Because we need to improve Nancy's property values, right?
That's right. Although it's pretty beautiful to look at from here, even the shape it's in. I've got a good view still, other than its ugly fence.
Yeah. It would be nice.
It would be. It'd be great for the neighborhood to get something nice there, whatever it may be.
Needs a lot of work, though.
Think about it, it was built with no engineers, no building inspectors, and stood for all this time.
Isn't that amazing? Why do we need engineers?
I know, really.
All right.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So let's then jump. Does anybody, before I move on, I don't see anybody's got their hands up, so why don't we jump right into fire training facility. Just to recap real quick, I don't know who was on the email that I was copied on this morning from Ellen. We talked about it briefly this morning. I know Mike Dennehy, I think I saw is connected, is on the meeting. And Scott and I had a conversation earlier today, and I also had a conversation with Dan Bricko too. So, Eric, do you want to kind of give us a quick update on fire training also, and kind of where, kind of where we're at as a town here, and then what we could do to help move that project along also.
Go ahead, Eric. I don't know what the question was tonight for PTBC really. So I don't know if there is a question, but we're here to help.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the big thing is we have a rough idea of what we're looking for as far as an RFQ process or an RFP process to identify a modular construction vendor for this fire training equipment. It seems that most of the facilities nowadays are being constructed in the Conex box shipping containers as opposed to a concrete structure, which we see at the structure we have today in town. I think the idea is that we'd like to have this facility in place prior to the town farm property being completely sold off. So we're here tonight to also keep you involved with this one as well.
Okay.
I think what I would add is I believe that there's been a request for ARPA funds to fund the balance that isn't covered by the contract with choice. And so that request is into the select board. And then we do have a timeline that includes the permitting and so on that we're hoping to, kind of follow with this project. So.
Okay. And is there a commitment to be able to hire an engineering firm to help develop the site plan and get it through permitting?
Yes, I did speak with Steve Cronin this afternoon, and Paul Sterrett does have, don't quote me, but I think it might be around 18,000 in for that service, and then also a contingency. So Paul will be helping with some of it, but yes, they do have that in the budget to help with that.
Okay. Scott, do you want to add anything?
I guess I'd like to, at some point, work, maybe nail down the timeline, which I guess we have one, but thinking ahead to planning board and having the necessary documents from engineering or the engineer for the planning board, I guess just how that all works out, because construction is going to be perhaps the least time consuming part of this project, given it's relatively simple. The hard part is going to be getting through, I think, the design and the approval process.
I would suggest that whether it's Ellen or the committee does arrange to have a meeting with town staff, because I know a couple weeks ago, there was a kind of a to-do list sent around. And we do have several comments about it that I think we need to flesh out. So, in the next couple of weeks, it would be important for that group to, we can have a virtual meeting very easily and go through that and make sure that everyone's in agreement with the steps.
I think Jeff and I are supposed to do that. I did get that. That is my responsibility, and I forget who else is going to be part of that, to meet with Jeff and you and Eric and get plan going.
Yeah, I do have comments from the department heads, so I think when we're ready to go on that, I'll make sure I get all the right people at that meeting and we'll walk through, because we definitely have comments about it.
I will ask Jeff in the morning when he wants to do it.
If you just loop me into, because basically the town farm task force has made it, Nancy and I have the task to get this thing done. So happy to be part of that process too.
Okay. Yeah, and let me know what I can do to help out. I'd be happy to assist. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on fire training facility? No. Okay. All right, great. Why don't we move on then? Our last item would be update on the rec department feasibility study. So Eric and Jody, if you guys need to sign off, thank you very much. Mike Dennehy, if you have to sign off too, thank you.
Might listen in the background, but thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
I'm still not used to having so many people attend our meetings, these virtual meetings, man. All of a sudden we got a lot of people coming to our meetings now. We gotta behave. All right.
That's so fun.
All right. Mr. Zegwitz, anything new on the rec department?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard it. Honestly, I haven't heard a thing.
Okay. All
And
right,
I'd like
great.
to, because I'm really kind of interested in that project. Seems like a fun one.
Okay.
Who would be
They
I be
do-
hearing from?
You would be hearing from Chris Barrett. I mean, obviously, we connected you, and with the initial proposal. So I'm assuming they understand, that there was this obligation to keep you and us involved throughout, right?
Okay, so I'll reach out and see if anybody has any information for me.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
I just ask, so Tom, you're saying that Jim is now part of that committee, and if the committee is meeting, that maybe they don't know that he's not only on the RFP committee, but he's on the real committee.
Yeah, I mean, when Chris Barrett reached out to me initially, as to, who would, if we wanted to be involved and have a rep. And so, when we voluntold Jim, because he didn't come to the meeting that night, that, he would be our rep, that was the general understanding, is that, he would stay on throughout the whole process. So yeah, they just may not be doing, I haven't heard anything more on it. So not really sure where they're at on the process.
Yeah.
Jim, do you even know whether or not they actually has a recommendation, or maybe Jody could answer this? Do we know, was a recommendation, or Scott, sent to the select board as far as, you know, awarding an actual contract?
That I don't know. I know we made our selection. Everybody sort of was in agreement, and that's the last I heard of it.
Yes, I am in the background listening. So, yes, a contract did go to the select board. They did award it, and I believe the work is underway. So that's all I know. But I believe it's progressing. But happy to give you all an update and, you know, through Jim Dwayne, the department head.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, you know, maybe Jim Zegwitz, maybe you reach out to Chris Barrett or Jim Dwayne and just make.
Yep.
Keeping you engaged.
Find out what's going on. Okay.
All right. Great. Okay, that's all the business items I had. We don't have any other invoices and change orders. I will, actually, one thing I will just let you know, the work on the communications tower as far as the relocation of the old tower to the highway department, that did hit a snag when they went to excavate the foundation for the new tower. They couldn't have planned it any better. It was going right in this corner of the building, on the rear of the building, and it just seemed like the perfect spot to put this tower and put the foundation. And of course, that meant that when they went to excavate it, they found five buried electrical conduits that they weren't aware of. So they had to stop and, number one, figure out what it was, because it wasn't showing up on their plans for the building. But after some investigation, they were able to find that it's the power that backfeeds the salt storage shed that's up behind the DPW building. So anyway, so they've had to kind of take a step back and regroup and come up with a foundation, a revision to the foundation design to be able to still be able to put that foundation in that location, because they had already made the fabricated the steel support for the tower that was tying into the steel frame of the building. That had already been installed, constructed and installed. And so if we had to move to a new location, it would have been a substantial setback. So there was a small change order that Green Mountain put in to us, or to the fire, to the town for the foundation, changes to the foundation. So so Jody, you'll be seeing that coming soon, but it's within the budget or the existing appropriation. We had no choice there, so hopefully they can get that going and get that tower in before the end of the month.
Okay.
All right. Other than that, I didn't have any other order of business other than to select the next meeting. So we are on for tentatively scheduled for the select board meeting on the 11th. We can decide if we may want to just meet, since we're doing all this virtually. It might be easy just to have a quick meeting before the select board meeting that night, and then we could click over as necessary. But anybody got any preferences or feel any need to have any other meetings before then?
Oh, I'm just curious if we couldn't get a look at my understanding of the next select board meeting is that Chris is going to bring some elevations there, some more developed elevations for the building. Would it be possible that we get to take a look at those things a few days in advance, or a week or two in advance?
Sure. Yeah. I'll ask him to do that. Maybe see if he can send something out to us, right after the, first of the year. And so we're not seeing it at the same time. Seeing it go to the select board. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm in regular contact with Chris, so we can do that. So yeah, good point, Jim. Okay. All right, so unless anything changes between now and then, we'll plan on a meeting on January 11th. Since we have to be posted anyway for the select board's meeting, we can post our meeting, start earlier, Then we can just adjourn to go to the select board meeting. Scott will have to do that anyway, so. All right. Isn't it nice, these virtual meetings, Scott? You can just like travel in time, like you instantly go from one meeting to the next.
Oh, it
With a
is
click
nice,
of a
I mean,
mouse?
I think back to when you used to be, at Cameron, after
Yeah.
up to the town center, so yeah, it is nice to just hop from link to link.
Yeah.
Change your background image too.
I'm still at the town hall.
Background image.
Yeah, and
Image.
it's still sunny there. It's amazing. It's dark as night at my house, but 2 miles away, the sun's still shining at the town hall.
The sun is always shining on the town hall.
There you go. Well, everybody have a good Christmas.
Yeah,
Yes.
good to see everybody.
You too.
Yes, we don't see everybody. Have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all good things. Hope everybody stays healthy and enjoys the holidays.
Right. Amen to that.
All right.
All right, take care.
Motion to adjourn. We have to do a motion to adjourn. Motion,
Second.
second. Okay, all those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye
Opposed?
bye.
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 Good